Most profit and loss forecasts are way too manual. They're filled with hard-coded values, inconsistent formulas, and projections that are tough to follow. But what if you could replace all of that with a single formula? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a profit and loss forecast that lets you toggle between different forecasting methods using just one Excel formula. Let's fire up that Excel file and have some fun. All right, so let's have a look at our Excel file. This is our profit and loss as we downloaded from our accounting software, in this case, QuickBooks Online. So the first thing that I want to do is add in a bunch of projection columns like we have over here. So this is actually really simple. You don't need to even write any formulas to do this. I'm just going to select all of my date columns and the values, and I'm going to select that from top to bottom. And then you see this little green icon here. I'm just going to click it and drag to the right, and we're going to go till column Y over here. And look at what happened. It automatically detected that on row 5 we had dates, and it automatically extended this information. Now, we of course don't want all of these values here because these are all projections, but the good news is that all the subtotals are now populated. So as long as I just remove all of these hard-coded values, we have our shell for where we can start entering in our data. Now, I don't want to go one by one and delete and delete. That would be really tedious. Instead, Excel has a really cool feature that many people aren't familiar with that allows you to select a bunch of cells in bulk based off of a certain condition. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this information here by holding down Shift. I'm going to keep going to the right. All right, now that special feature is called Go to Special. So I'm going to click over here under Find and Select, and I'm going to click on Go to Special. Now, in this case, I want to find all hard-coded values. If it has a formula, that means that it's a subtotal. I don't want to bring in the subtotal. I want to instead just highlight those hard-coded values so I can delete them all. So I'm going to click on Constants, and I just want numbers. So I am going to now click OK, and watch what happens. All of these values over here that are hard-coded are now selected. So now, with just one keystroke, boom, I deleted all of that information. And you can see that again, all of my subtotals are still in place. So as I fill in the information, I won't need to write any additional formulas. We're still just operating on one formula here. But first, I need to tell you about our sponsor, Bill. You ever notice how employee travel always turns into a finance problem? Someone books a flight on their own card, grabs a hotel somewhere, expenses a few dinners, and a month later, you're the one chasing them for receipts they swear they already sent. By the time you've tracked it all down, half of it doesn't match the statement, and you're rebuilding an expense report out of memory and a pile of forwarded emails. That's exactly why you should use Bill, built by Bill Travel. It lives right inside Bill Spend and Expense, so your team can book flights and hotels in one place. The charges hit bill cards tied to your budgets, and the receipts attach themselves automatically. All the chasing and manual uploading pretty much just goes away. But the bigger deal is what happens before the booking. Bill Travel surfaces your travel policy right in the search flow, so employees see what's in budget before they book, not after. Out-of-policy spend gets flagged at checkout, not discovered at month end. It syncs straight into QuickBooks, NetSuite, or Xero, and it's included at no extra cost, with zero booking fees or markups. Sign up through the link below and get Bill Travel along with everything else they build for finance teams. All right, now back to the video. All right, so now to apply all that information into Excel, I want to again have this drop down where as I select any information, all of my data will automatically update regardless of what this drop down shows. So to get started, I'm going to add in these 3 columns after my account column. And I'm going to select these 3 columns. And if you want to just use your keyboard and get shortcut here, you can hit Alt, H, I for insert, and then C for columns. Let's just make that a lot smaller. Okay. Now you also could have done that by pressing Control plus with the column selected. All right, so now I'm going to write driver. This is going to be where that dropdown takes place. Then %/buffer. This is going to be where I put in percentages, whether it's for a buffer or a percentage of revenue. And then assumption. This column is going to be what I use for monthly, quarterly, and annual assumptions. All right, now let's just get some formatting done. I'm going to first select all of these cells by holding down Shift, and let's make this blue so that people know that this is an input cell. That's common in financial modeling. Now for the buffer column, I'm going to set this to a percentage format. And then the assumptions column, I'm going to make this a comma separated format. Perfect. Okay. Our next step is to populate the actual dropdown to allow us to choose from any of these different results. Now, Excel has a special name for that feature, and it's called data validation. So I'm going to select all of this information over here, and I'm going to click on data and then data validation. Now I'm going to change this from allow to instead list, and here I could just type in my values for the different options that I want. So there's a 3-month average, a 6-month average, 12-month average, and I'm just going to speed up as I complete this. All right, so now let's see what happens if I select this dropdown. It looks like everything that I wanted is now shown here. So why don't we just select a 6-month average, and we can give this a little bit more breathing room, and let's put a 5% buffer. Perfect. Now it's time to populate the one formula that's going to calculate everything that we need. Now, in order to factor in the formula for each and every single one of these dropdowns, we have two options. You can use the if function, which will in essence say if the value is equal to, let's say, 6-month average, take a 6-month average. But that's going to get pretty tricky because we're going to have to nest a bunch of if functions inside itself, which will probably make you dizzy just looking at it. So instead, you can utilize the switch function. All right, now let's just take a second to analyze this switch function to really understand what's happening over here. So we got the function, and then this over here is the value that we're analyzing in the driver. So if the driver is equal to, and then all of these conditions are what we're analyzing, followed by each of these formulas. So if it's a 3-month average, then we're averaging these 3 cells plus 1 plus the buffer that we have over here. So in this case, it's adding 10% on top of the 6-month average. We do the same thing for a 12-month average, and then the prior month and prior year is just referring to the prior month's values plus that buffer that we put in this column over here. Then we have for a monthly assumption, the value in column D, which is this over here, plus whatever buffer we have again in that buffer column right over here. The quarterly assumption instead divides it by 3, the annual assumption instead divides it by 12, and then if it's custom, just returns 0. So now that we've gone through this formula, this should be pretty easy for us to recreate. Let's now do it together. All right, so let's drag the formula bar down here and let's write this function. So I'm going to write equals switch. Now I'm going to press Alt and then equals to skip to the next line, and let's hit 2 spaces in order to indent a little. So I want to say this value over here, which is what we're analyzing. And of course, I just want to lock the column so I could bring this down and to the right without the column changing, but the row will. All right, now let's have a comma. So again, 2 spaces. If it's 6-month average, then what do we want to do? Well, then we want to write average for these 6 months over here times 1 plus the amount over here. And let's lock just the column here. Now let's just see if I close the parentheses here, what exactly will happen. I'll hit enter and it looks like it's working. So I'm going to change this also to blue so people remember that they can change this value. And we don't need to see these decimals. Awesome. All right, so now if I just copy this information down, let's see what happens if I copy our formula that we have over here down as well. And it looks like this worked, but this gave me a divide by 0 because these values over here are blank. Well, that's okay. Let's just wrap this around instead on an if error. And we'll return 0 if it's an error, and then we can copy this down. And there we go. The information is now working. So I'm just gonna now write a comma, and we're gonna copy this a bunch of times. So if it's a 3-month average, then I only want to take from 3 months. So that is going to start from column N. If it's a 12-month average, that is going to go all the way back to column E. Then we'll do prior month, which is just going to be the prior value here times whatever buffer we have over here. We'll do the same for prior year, only instead of it being P7, we'll again pull from column E for E7. All right, then we have a few more to go. Let's drag this down a bit more. So we got monthly assumption, which is going to be this value over here. We'll lock the column times buffer if it exists. And then I'll do the same thing for quarterly and annual assumption. Only for quarterly, I'll divide by 3, and then annual assumption, I'll divide that by 12. All right, now if it's equal to custom, we'll make that 0, or if it's equal to 0, we'll also give it 0. And then enter. Okay, looks like it's working. So again, I'm gonna copy this down. Now let's just try if I change this to, let's say, a 12-month average. All right, so now let's see if I assign this to an annual assumption. It starts at 0, but I could put 120,000, and I could remove the buffer so that this works. I could make this instead a 3-month average with a 5% buffer. All right, everything works. So now I can start copying this to our cost of goods sold section. All All right, so let me first just take all this information and copy these as placeholders. Now I'm going to paste this over every cell, but then I'm going to come down to everything that is a subtotal row or a calculated row, and I'm just going to remove it so that people don't get confused. Perfect. Okay, so back to our formula. I want to make one change. I want to include a drop-down option for percentage of revenue. Now, we already actually have that in our drop-down here, but nothing really happens if you enter that. So you'll kind of get this NA error. Well, we of course don't want that to be in the revenue section because that'll create a circular reference. But for anything other than revenue, we can now use that by editing our formula. So I'm just going to come down here, and after annual assumption, I'll hit Alt-Enter, double space, and then percentage of revenue. And then that's going to take from the revenue line item, and I'll lock this time the row, times whatever amount we have in this percentage. Then I'll hit enter. All right, now I can copy and paste this down. So in this case, if I hit the drop down and say percentage of revenue, well, now this is taking 5% of revenue. Now that actually kind of makes sense. So I'm going to again set this over here to percentage of revenue, and we can set this to then 2% because merchant account fees typically are taken from a percentage of each sale. And now I can just take all this information, copy and paste, and I'll continue to do that for all these remaining cells. And now if I did this correctly, I can just select all of my values here, copy, come all the way to the right, and paste. And it looks like it's working. All right, now last thing I'm going to do is just group this information. You could hit Alt-A and then G for grouping. And this is just a small nitpick, but I like to group things so that the group button shows on the left. So if you don't know how to do that, you could actually just click on Data, Outline, click this little button over here, and then Summary columns to the right of detail, just uncheck, and now it flips to the left. All right, so for sales, I'm gonna wanna do both of these as a 3-month average, and let's make a 10% buffer. We are getting aggressive with our information. Now for advertising, I wanna make that also a percentage of revenue, and I'm gonna make that actually a 20% of revenue because we are really in a growth mode. Now I'll keep all these the same, but for accounting fees, consulting fees, legal fees, these are usually based off of fixed assumptions. So I'm gonna say a monthly assumption for the accounting fees over here, and let's just say 7,000 a month. Legal fees, let's say that's a quarterly assumption, and we'll make that 30,000 a month. Consulting fees, I'll just make that a monthly assumption, and we'll put that at 500. Awesome. Now, I think everything else here is fine. Truth is, for all these payroll line items, I'm most likely going to have a separate tab that has a full headcount forecast. And what I would do is I would link that information into this tab. So for that, you can just choose custom and then take your headcount forecast and just link it in here. Now I'm going to undo that so that we can analyze this business because everything else here looks good. And now my profit and loss forecast is complete. Now, I of course wouldn't showcase the information like this to a stakeholder because this is pretty ugly. Instead, I would show it via something like this, where I could understand the current period versus a prior period and a prior year. Everything is summarized based off of different summary groupings. And if you want to learn how to build that, you can check out this video right over here. I'm Josh, your CFO guy, and I'll catch you next time.